Can you please discuss what is unique about the vibration of Om? I have seen it written as O-M and A-U-M, and pronounced either as one syllable or with three distinct sounds of the letters A-U-Ma. Does this change its vibration?
Probably not. However, the Brahmins wanted to distinguish themselves, so they said, we will pronounce Om as O-M. And we will let the other castes, that means the Vaishyas and Shudras and Kshatriyas, we will allow others to pronounce Auma, Om, and make three distinct sounds. But we are Brahmins, so we will have only one sound. And that's how they tried to distinguish themselves, as we have the supreme or superior knowledge to what other castes have. It was a little bit of job security. And it was that way all throughout the history as they tried to divide, and they said, oh, women shouldn't study this material, and Shudras shouldn't put their shadow over the book, and Vaishyas can't practice tapasya. Only the Brahmins. If you give us dakshina, you can't get to heaven without a donation. Give us dakshina. It's the same as selling indulgences in the Christian church. They made it proprietary, unfortunately. And that is the difference in the vibration. The only difference or distinction is, and there is a distinction, some write it O-M and some write it A-U-M, and they pronounce it a little differently if they want. That's regional. So there are regional differences in pronunciation, and then there was the concept that we are Brahmins and we have the pure knowledge. So we're not going to let the other castes pronounce the way we pronounce. And that will show our distinction. Look, Ambika, the kings gave their kingdoms to their kids. And they were also administrators, and they gave their administrative posts to their kids. And it became hereditary. Who became the secretary of the treasury, and who became the general in the army. And all the Kshatriyas gave their astras and shastras and their weapons and their training and their horses and their chariots to their kids. Now the Vaishyas gave their businesses to their kids. I got a store, I got a farm, I got a this, I got a that. They gave that to their kids. Well, the Shudras gave their tools to their kids. And what we call caste was really the natural hereditary transformation or transition of property from one generation to the next. Well, the first Brahmins had only knowledge. And they tried to pass that down, and then the kids said, hey, that's too much to learn. Remember the Saptarishi, the first 7 rishis, knew all the Vedas. So they said, we can't learn all the Vedas, and Veda Vyas came and divided it into 4 Vedas. Okay, we'll learn one of them. And then they said, well, we can't learn a whole Veda. I mean, there are 15,572 mantras in the Rig Veda. How are we going to learn all that? And then they made shakas and branches. And they made 49 divisions, and they cut it up into little pieces. And through the generations, it got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they said, oh, we can't remember all that now. Would you write it down for us? And then, instead of it being Shruti, it became Smriti. And Shruti was written down, was heard. It was given from guru to disciple, from mouth to ear for thousands and thousands of years. And then they said, hey, we can't remember all that. Write it down for us so we can remember it. And so they wrote it all down, and every gotra, every shaka, everybody took a piece, and they wrote down their piece. And so you have Kapil Muni writing the Shankha philosophy, and you have Gautam Muni writing Nyaya philosophy, and you have everybody wrote a piece of it down. And then the Kshatriyas were busy with their weapons and their kingdoms and their administration and their defense, and the Vaishyas were busy with their distribution of goods and services, and the Shudras were busy with their tools and their implements and their cultivation and their serving. And they said, we don't have time to do pujas or learn things ourselves. You do the pujas for us. We'll make an offering. We'll support the Brahmins because you know the pujas. Well, that went on for some generations, and then the kids of the Brahmins say, hey, nobody's asking us any questions. Why do we have to study? We've got the books. If we need the answer, we'll look in the book. So why study? We don't need all this knowledge. And they stopped learning it. Instead of knowing all the Vedas, they knew where the books were kept. Well, it devolved from there even further. Until sometime people, they just made it up as they went along and said, this is the right answer. And you can't come into my temple, and your color is wrong, and you're mlech, and you're this, and you're parai, and you're a dalit, and they made jati bhed, and they said, oh look, we are superior, we're the Brahmins. But remember, Brahmo ebo brahmabhavanti, the knower of God becomes a Brahmin. The knower of Brahman is the Brahmin. Who knows this material becomes a Brahmin. And so it further devolved that all they could give is curses. And if you didn't fulfill their wishes, if you didn't give them the kind of support that they wanted, and it says clearly in the scriptures, don't pay anybody to do your puja for you. Give them an offering of your love and respect if you're pleased with the example that they showed you. Don't pay them. That's not a job. What do you mean? I'm going to go out and chop wood and carry water, and you're going to sit here and go ram, 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 and then I'm going to pay you? You're praying for me? You're going to change my karma because of your prayer? That doesn't work. No one's going to change my karma but me. I can change my karma by changing my attitude, and I can change my attitude by changing my aspiration, and I can change my aspiration by finding a qualified guru who gives me an example of where I should want to go. Where do I want to go in life? How am I going to get there? Then I can change my attitude, then I can change my karma. So all of this priestly fee business was nonsense. It's antithetical to the scripture. I would give a learned Brahmin from my heart, a knowledgeable person who inspires me, who gives me an example of what I could aspire to. I would give him a token of my love and esteem from my own devotion. But if you say to me, give me this much money and I'm going to change your karma because I'll say the mantra which has the magical quality of what? How gullible have we become? That's not spirituality. Spirituality is giving more than we take. It's not making a business of selling mantras. So, Ambika, when you start learning this material, it's the intention, it's the motivation, it's the aspiration, it's the example that you're following that makes the intensity of purity within your sadhana. That's what makes the vibration. And it really doesn't matter if it's Om or Om. What matters is your intention and your motivation and your example and your faith. And Sai Baba said it so beautifully. He said, Shraddha and Shabri. It means faith and patience. You've got to have faith that it's going to happen. And you've got to have patience to wait for it to come about.